Oh, hey, showing off another instrument. Yay. Will you shut up, chair? My god. Hey again, you little creatures. If you're new here, you might not know that I tend to do a lot of sound design, usually within a plugin. But I do explore other things, and one of the things I've been interested in is non-typical acoustic instruments and how I can add them to my sound palette. I've done that with the tianhu, the waterphone, and most recently, the lava chord. Today I've pulled out a different instrument, some musical bamboo, the Angklung. Angklung? 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 One of those. It's pretty old too, dating back as far as the 7th century. It was used a lot during parades, rituals, and other ceremonies and celebrations. Today they're still made and used, but they've gone far and beyond their Sundanese roots and made their way here into my room. How does it sound? Like this. Well, I didn't say I was good at it. It's bamboo, and it should sound like bamboo, but unlike other instruments, other similar instruments, this one is a specially tuned rattle, essentially. Now, the Angklung instrument that I have here is in C major, and it's only in 1 octave, but other Angklung instruments can be in multiple octaves and in different scales. Some of the lower note rattles can actually be really big, but well, I only have so much space in here. There are also variations of this instrument that aren't just these 2 tubes. There are some with 3 tubes that are tuned to 3 octaves, sometimes the notes in the same octave, and sometimes in triads. By the way, has anyone noticed that I arranged this from low notes on the right and high notes on the left? Completely the opposite of how that usually goes, at least in Western music, with like instruments like pianos. Usually the higher notes go up to the right and not the left. Did anyone else notice that? Because I just noticed that. Only just now. For each of these Angklung frames, we have 2 bamboo tubes that are cut in a way to produce a melodic tone. We have smaller pieces of wood that hold the tubes in place and secure them to the base. In the base, there are 2 slits for the bamboo tubes to slide to, and this is what produces the rattling sound. Now, these tubes are both tuned to the same note, C, but they are an octave apart. The bigger tube is the lower note, and the smaller tube is the higher note. The idea is to hold the frame and shake it, and that's your sound. One of the nice things about this instrument, as opposed to like other melodic percussion instruments, is that the sound doesn't sustain. It only rings out as long as you're shaking it. So if you were to play it, and then you were to stop, the sound stops. Other instruments might have a sound that rings out, but this one, it stops when you stop. As you saw just then, I paired this instrument with some electronic instruments to make this short little track, and I used this exactly as it is. Now, the reason why I used it as it is because with the duration of the sound, because the sound is quite short, and the harmonic overtones and just the overall quality of sound, I wanted to change up what I might have typically used. I might have used a different sound, like a brassy sound or other synthetic sound. But I feel that for that part, to change things up, to give it a little bit of sonic variation, I use this instead. And that's something that I like doing with some of the instruments that I get, very similar to this, like I did with the other instruments I featured in other videos, like the tianhu and the lava chord, for instance. Another thing that you may have seen from some of my earlier videos is my tendency to re-synthesize sounds. Now, I feel that when I did that, I kind of had a weird self-imposed rule that when I would make these songs, especially for these videos, that I had to use only the single instrument for the source of all the sounds, even if the sounds were going to be a drum sound or a bass sound. But I decided not to do that for this because it doesn't really need it. I don't have much use for that, and I just don't really think I'd have anything to gain to add any more re-synthesized sounds of this instrument when, you know, I could just use this sound as it is because it's a good sound. I like the sound. I like it. It's a fun little instrument. This instrument has an interesting timbre that can color your music, as in non-traditional music. Though the sound is simple, it can be used as a melody, as a texture, or as chords. There's also something a little bit unnerving and creepy about the sound because the sound isn't perfectly sinusoidal. It has harmonic and inharmonic overtones. If this wasn't in a major scale or if it was chromatic, I think I could play some interesting and darker stuff with it. Because of that sound quality and tone, there's something also very vocal about it. Playing multiple of these rattles at once of the same note in a big space, it sounds almost like a choir. Now, even though I don't have multiple rattles of the same note, I can sample them multiple times, play them all at once, and fake that. So what do I use it for? A little bit of everything. By the way, this instrument does exist as several sample libraries. Let's take a look at those. This is Sangara from Orchestral Tools. I have loaded the Angklung preset here, and it sounds like this. These are the single hits. There's also shakes, which don't sustain very long, but those would be the rolls. Now, you heard that there. I just let go of the note, and there's a little bit of a fade, but some of the rattling is still going through. And it sounds just a little unnatural, but we can fix that. So down here, there's a button for the releases, and we have an envelope here that can be dragged out to increase the release time, and you can hear that here. You can hear the release tail of the sound, or you could drag it up here and really shorten it. Now, the thing with Orchestral Tools is that they have this feature, but not for all of their libraries. There are some that have an envelope, but don't allow you to deselect the releases, and so it will just follow whatever envelope is already defined there. I don't know. This is one thing that's weird. But this sample library, I think, is a pretty good one. It's part of a larger collection of instruments. I think you can buy this instrument a la carte, so you could buy it separately out of the entire collection of instruments, but I'm not sure. And it's a nice sound. However, just like mine, this one is in one octave, but it's chromatic. This Angklung comes from Soundiron. It's a very old library, but it's a very good library. It's done me well for many years. This one has a number of different instruments that are saved separately, and this is the old version. I understand that they updated this to version 2 recently. I don't have that version. I have the older one. But there's different instruments for different ambiances, different effects, and things like that. It sounds like this. What's interesting is that this comes in with its own built-in arpeggiator, and the way that this works is this is set to the volume. So if I were to bring these down and I were to play it, you can hear that some of these are louder than the other ones. So this isn't arpeggiating between different notes. It's not like a full-on sequencer, but it changes the volume of the sound as you're holding the note down. This Angklung comes from Modwheel. It's also an old but good library. And very similar to the Soundiron one, it's separated into different instruments, as you can see here in this list, instead of it being all within the instrument panel here that you could change articulations, reverb settings, and things like that. Everything has been separated. So that's how that's set up. The instrument that I have is called the Rattler, and it has a similar thing that I pointed out with the sign library, where the envelope for the release is kind of a little long, so you could still hear some rattles after you let go, and it fades out just a little bit in a way that sounds like it shouldn't really be doing that. if you wanted it to sound a little bit more, real to how a real acoustic Angklung is played. But there are other instruments here, including single hits. Now, the interesting thing with this instrument is that it adds another hit as soon as you release it. So you can kind of fake your own little rattle by hitting the note and letting go of it multiple times. Other instruments in this list, like this one, use samples that have been stretched, so they've been tuned down. And so they sound less like Angklungs and more like whatever that sounds like. I don't know. There's also creative stuff like this Frozen. There's also creative stuff like this one, Angklung Freeze. And then there's stuff like this instrument, which sounds like it's just tapping on the bamboo, and it actually almost sounds like a different instrument entirely. And finally, the last Angklung library that I have, anyway, is World Percussion Angklung from Evolution Sounds. This one is a newer instrument compared to the other ones that I've shown, and it comes with quite a bit of reverb on the sound when you first open it up. Bring that down. So even without adding any reverb down here, it's a bit of a wet sound. Let's change the articulation because it says sustain, but it's a very short sound. Nice single hit. And we have rolls. Rolls slow. Rolls fast, and then random. So we have both speed and intensity kind of changing with this articulation. Personally, this library, it sounds great, but I wish there was a way to control the release, especially for these rolls right here. Because as I let them go, the release kind of fades the sound out while the rattles are still going on. And it would be cool to accentuate that with a single hit at the end if, an envelope can't be added. It's a newer library, and it's pretty good. In fact, the release is pretty much one of my only issues with it. But other than that, it's comparable to the other libraries. And to get rid of that extra reverb, just turn off all these extra mics or mix them down. It's pretty decent. By the way, the other Kontakt libraries are compatible with, I think, at least Kontakt 5. This one is only compatible with Kontakt 7 and up, so I had to open up Kontakt 7 to demo this. Which, by the way, when I'm recording this, still don't know what's happening with native instruments, so who knows if this is even going to be important in the future. So those are the sample libraries that I have. That's the Angklung, those are the sample libraries, and this is the video. If you like this video, you know what to do. Give it a like. Why do you need me to tell you? And if you want to see more, consider subscribing. Alright, see you soon. Bye.